Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to come with us. I'll just do a little introduction. We're the Cats and Books Club podcast, and really all that means, well, I mean, Erin's been the one corresponding with you, so I can let her tell you what the
Yes.
shebang is.
So we are two cousins, and I think it's been 2 years now. We
Yeah.
decided to start a podcast where we read books and we kind of review them, talk about them, and then I don't know.
Sometimes we ask for interviews because we think you're really cool.
Yes. I don't know how that started. Actually, I do know. We had a book series that we read from an indie author, and we were like, well, what if we could interview some of these authors? That would be really neat. And I'm like, but nah, they're not going to agree to do that. But two, well, now three have agreed so far. So
We appreciate
it's
that.
been awesome.
Also, I think
Did you?
hopefully that won't be too much.
Our computer can't
Like,
handle it. It's like, no.
I've been
it's like not
having
today, it's a Sunday.
He's like, not today.
curses. Well, just to
Should be okay.
officially. Oh, so sorry. I
Sorry?
just realized I don't know if I actually introduced myself with my name to you yet. I'm Izzy. Um,
Hi, Izzy.
he, him, and then
And then I'm Erin. Pronouns she, her.
and you are
Perfect. Ben, he, him.
Sweet.
our amazing guest. So anyway, it looks like this is working so far. Fingers crossed.
Yes, I think
If
so.
anything goes down, just let us know again and we'll try something else. But
Absolutely.
um, all right. Well, we will just go ahead and get into these questions since we are
Amazing.
on very fragile internet.
Fragile internet. Okay, let's see. So our first question, we love the theme throughout William Thorn of how trauma and secrets haunt you, just like ghosts. So what inspired the haunting of William Thorn?
Lovely question. So there is a real personal inspiration behind the haunting of William Thorn. And it all kind of started when I went on a family vacation with my mum, my sisters, my uncles, my aunts, my grandparents. We went and stayed in this manor house down by the coast. And it was on that trip and in that house that it was like, oh my God, this the setting alone could be a horror book. Like I just felt like I love horror, I love ghosts, I love spiritualism, I love all that kind of stuff. And when I was there, I was like, wow, this really feels like it would be a great setting for a horror.
That's
Like,
awesome.
well, that's great because I've got a setting, but what the hell's the horror going to be about, you know? Um, and it was on that trip that I ended up having a conversation with my uncle William, who so happens to be gay, lucky him, just like me. And
That's so cool.
yeah, and we were basically just discussing our coming out stories because he's only 20 years older than me, maybe 25. Um, and I'd never really sat down and had that conversation with him. I'd heard through the grapevine in my family that he didn't have the easiest time. And I really wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. So we sat down and we had this massive conversation. And unfortunately, when he came out to our family, which is a Greek Orthodox family, that side of the family are all Greek.
Very
Um,
cool.
they didn't take it very well. And by
Uh,
they, it was just the grandparents, they didn't take it
sure.
very well. They're of that era. So he had a really, really hard time coming out to them, and it caused a lot of problems. But when I came out to the same people, all those years later, I didn't have any problem with them whatsoever. For religion, my grandparents are the first to put two single beds together. So me and my
And he didn't have the easiest time because it you had a Greek Orthodox family, which that could be really intense.
yes, that's it. So, and then what I was saying was when I came out to the same people, they had no issues with me. My sexuality, there was never an issue. I didn't have a hard time. And I
That's
was
so
saying,
wild.
yeah, and I just felt like, and it's not a feeling, it's this knowing, this deep knowing that the things he went through eased the path for me coming out.
Oh
So
wow.
it's a really long roundabout way of saying that we went on a trip to a manor house, which would have been the perfect setting for a horror book. And then all of a sudden, I was reminded that these queer people that come before us who have stood up to hate and vitriol have eased the path for people like me. And this isn't always the case for everybody, unfortunately, but just my personal experience eased the path for me. And I wanted to write this book in this manor house setting as a love letter to my uncle William, who the book's dedicated and named after, The Haunting of William Thorn, to
Love that.
basically show that kind of, you know, the dis the difference of gay people existing during different times. And that's how he came up with the book, with this story of two people in love in the 1930s and then two people in love in modern day, and how their experience being in love is so similar yet so different, and what complications that would kind of come up with, you know? So that's kind of, yeah, that's how the book was born in my mind.
I like that.
Thanks so
I
much.
love that. Is that kind of why you focused in on the World War II time period?
No, no, it wasn't actually. I needed it to be as far enough away from the modern day.
Right.
And I'm really fascinated with history. I'm not saying I'm a history buff. I have the worst memory, so like I kind of take information in and it goes, but I've always really found it is interesting of people fleeing to the countryside during war. It just felt like the perfect time to do it. Of course, like during that time, being queer definitely wasn't, accepted. Again, nowhere near as where it is now to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt really natural to me. My uncle was definitely not alive during that period. He was he wasn't even a conception, but I don't know. It felt really natural to have that grounding moment. And I don't focus too much on the war, but what it does do is it creates a scenario where we have these two men who would never be in the same place, suddenly in the same place. Um, so that's, yeah, where I went with that.
I like that. Um, who inherited or inhabited, because I know um in the book you describe that Archie kind of inherited this house from
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
Was there someone specific you were thinking of that inhabited the house between 1939 and then the present day?
So in my mind, in the book, we find out that what's his name? See, this is how bad my memory is. This is literally the reality of my life.
Real.
The family has two sons, and we are reading the book in the 1930 perspective from one of the sons, but there was another son too. And in my mind, he had a young family before he went to war because he was a slightly older brother. And it was that kind of side of the family that the house got kind of given to. And I think in my mind, I envision family members living there sometimes. And then I have feelings of it being empty. Then I have feelings of it like being rented out, but still owned by the family, but nobody could have kind of wanted to be there. So I have and I suppose that came from the fact that I stayed in a house that we booked on Airbnb. But I like this idea that the house has a story, even if like, and that story doesn't change no matter how many people come in and out of the place.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to make it clear in the book that it's not been inhabited 24/7. It's,
Okay.
the towns, the village folk nearby would rather it be torn down. It's not an eyesore exactly, but it's a stain on the kind of village's past. So I like this idea of, in my head, multiple people have tried to be there, and then it towards the end, it's just been left,
I'm
and that's how.
curious. Sorry for
No, no, go ahead.
interrupting. Just about the the brother. So you're saying William in your mind had a sibling who kind of had to go to war? Is that what you're saying?
Not William. The no, Will that would be modern day.
I'm
So
sorry, Robert, not.
that's it. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Archie's ancestors would lead him
Yes,
back
Archie's
to
ancestors is what I.
brother.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
In my mind, he had a young family before he went to war because if we think about not William, sorry, Archie's age, sorry, not Archie, Robert's. It's Robert, isn't it? Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, Robert. Yeah. Robert's age in the book is prime age to go to war. He's
Hmm.
actually like would probably be considered like a little bit older. Like, it would be questioned why is he not going to war?
Right,
Like
right.
then. So, and if he had an older brother, I imagined his older brother to be older. And also that brother, I believe, didn't make it through World War One, and that's why they didn't want Robert to go to to go to another possible war. I don't go into detail about the other brother,
Hmm.
but in my head he had a younger family, and that younger family, they had kids.
Okay.
So yes.
Then we were curious because um there was an acronym that was written on the wall during one of kind of the really spooky scenes,
Yeah.
and the acronym was like RCAR. I thought that Archie may have been trying to like write his name and then just couldn't write his name, but was that acronym supposed to stand for something specific?
Yes and no. It's part of my desire when writing horror to
Mm.
give you very clear-cut answers, but to also not give you clear-cut answers on certain things that aren't necessarily too important. Um, I'm an avid horror watcher. I love horror, everything, TV shows, horror movies. Not a massive fan of horror books, surprisingly, but I think it's because I'm
Interesting.
very, I find it very difficult to be scared. Like I'm not scared
Oh, that's
of things.
valid.
Yeah, I go on ghost hunts. I'm not scared. Like I've done the Ouija. Like I'm just not scared. So with books, I never find it scary. But anyway, with films specifically, a good horror film is a horror film that I finish watching, and I am left with questions enough to go and watch millions of breakdown videos or research what the directors wanted to do. The good horror films are the ones with some things left to your own imagination, your own interpretation. And there's a few little nods in that book which I wanted to leave for that. It's the same with some details towards the twist, one of the many twists at the end, and I don't want to say exactly which one. The people listening to this, are they going to be the ones that have read the book or potentially new readers too? What?
So we usually will put at the beginning, and of course we'll record this later. But we usually put at the beginning, hey, we're going to be discussing spoilers. So if you haven't read this book,
Okay,
please, stop
okay.
here.
Brill. Okay, brilliant. So this is another spoiler warning, but the whole introduction to this almost cult-like group at the end of the
Hmm.
book, that very
Hmm.
much wasn't touched upon too much, and that was a conscious choice because I wanted it to be left up to interpretation. Who else is part of this group? Is there any other descendants still alive that have the secret? Where does the story go after the Haunting of William Thorn is done? There were other things like the snake chasing its tail, the symbols on the doors, things like that.
Yes.
They weren't just creepy elements I wanted to add in. I almost wanted them to spark theories and ideas that maybe one day if people liked the book enough that I could go back and answer them, you know?
Okay, that makes complete sense.
Yes,
Okay.
'cause we have some carvings on the walls which are very self-explanatory. Another spoiler, I tell him, tell him, tell him. That's obviously
Right.
very
Yes.
that
Yeah.
with the tall
Yeah, that
thing that
one we figured what out.
Yeah, I was
But
like, oh shit. Yeah.
so yes. But yeah, I like the idea. I personally love as somebody that watches horrors that I at the end I'm like, what does this mean? What was the director or the actors trying to do in this scene? And I really wanted to leave some unanswered questions.
I like that.
No?
so it was sort of
Yeah.
a red herring to throw everyone off,
Okay.
try and figure out what was going
Yeah, a
on.
little bit. And I think as well, like I love a red herring, but for me, they're so unintentional sometimes because I don't plot my books. I will know the characters, I know the setting, and I will have an idea of where I want to go, but that will always change multiple times during my writing process. And for me, I feel like, especially if I'm writing a book that's so plot twist heavy, if I know where the book's going, I feel like it's going to be obvious to the readers. I'm not that clever enough to not make it obvious in what I'm doing. So I have to be surprised with some of the plot twists. I have to let them come supernaturally.
I like
Uh,
that.
and the twist with William at the end, that was a massive curve. That was never it was never supposed to be him ever. I used to cry over knowing who it was going to be at the end, and
So who was it, if you don't mind
it was
telling us?
meant to be Teddy Robert.
That's
Robert
yeah.
Roberts. Yeah, Teddy's the other. Yeah, it was meant to be
Yeah.
Robert. Robert was always, in fact, initially Robert was going to be the ghost of uh I'm so getting tangled up with the names. I need to hold on, let me get a book with me. Because I've,
It's not
in my
just me.
head, I've written like 3 books since this point. So
Holy
uh
cow.
3 or 4 books.
Ways. How
Actually.
do
So
you do
potentially
that?
5. So Edward, it was originally going to be Edward.
That,
And
yeah.
but then I was like, no, Edward's actually going to be Teddy, who is uh Edward's family connection to the house. Um and it was all the I had all these ideas, but as I was writing them, it was like, no, this is too obvious to me, so it's going to be too obvious to the reader. So I just kept going to see what would be natural, and that's yeah, how we came up with the end of that
That
one.
is crazy because I was completely thinking it was Teddy the whole time. I kept thinking that Teddy was a ghost. Like the
Yeah,
entire time. Like I was like, "Oh, I think he's a ghost and they're going to fall in love and then it's going to break my heart because he's a ghost." And then the
yeah.
ending came and I was like, "What is happening? What
And
just
that's
happened? What?"
that's why I have that conversation, or I have William have that thought process of, well, Teddy, it can't be him because these people in the village have just said Teddy died or went to war and died at war, whatever. Um, but he's there stealing my coat. Is he the ghost? Like, is he a
Hmm.
spirit? I had to have him have that thought, because if it was me in that scenario, I would have that thought process, and I'd be like, I don't think I'm very smart, but I'd be clued on enough to be like, hold on a minute, are you a ghost? Nobody else has seen you. You're not staying in town. People are like, are you so that's for me, it was in that
Hmm.
moment I was like, it can't be him. So yeah.
Right, and the fact that he was the one that got beaten up, sort of, spoiler alert, at the end, a little bit, where you're like, oh,
Yes.
well, a ghost can't get beaten up. That
Yes.
really threw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you were really thinking up until that point that Edward was a ghost.
Yeah. Like I was like, this
Oh,
guy's a ghost. La la la
we're
la
like,
la.
we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. Who's the
Yeah.
ghost? Who turns out
He's
to
the
be the
ghost.
ghost?
And
I thought it was
yeah.
gonna be like the cab driver, was like straight up. I was like, we're gonna find out the cab driver's the one that's dead. I don't know. I was ready for it. I was ready for it to be anyone. I
That's
was like, none of us know
that's
where the story is going. Let's just see who could
okay.
it
You could be.
who could he
Yeah.
pull out of left field?
No, it was so funny though, because I was reading the ending, like the twist at the ending.
Yeah.
Um, it was like 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I was like, well, I'll just finish that book. And the next thing I know, I'm like crying, sobbing in bed, and I'm like, what the hell just happened?
I know. It was hard. It wasn't hard to do. In that moment it felt really right. But I have this memory of me driving somewhere with my husband in the car, and I wasn't even, I think I was just plotting the book at this point, or like thinking about, when I say plotting, I'm thinking about it. I'm not writing anything down. And I
Gotcha.
just knew that I was going to kill Edward off at the end. I thought he's going to die. And I used to well up and get really emotional at thinking that I was going to kill off this character. And I actually started writing The Haunting of William Thorn back in 2022. It's been, I started in 2022, then I left it because I had other obligations. I had trilogies I had to finish. I had other book deals I had to go through. And actually, The Haunting of William Thorn wasn't supposed to come out until 2026.
Dang.
Yeah. I my publisher that I signed with for this deal, they also took around the Realm of Fae series, which we were working on, and they said, "Listen, the market is really saying that they want horror right now. I think it's a really good time that we put the other fantasy that you're doing for us for this slot. I think we should bring forward the horror." And I was like, "Yeah, I can do
Okay.
that. I can do that. I can do that." And so it's been a process. It's been a really long process because, of course, at that point, I had to reread what I'd already written and see what I liked, and I practically changed it all up because my writing from 2022 is different to now. And
Mm.
but
So true.
it was probably the easiest, right? Or not the easiest, but the most cathartic, the most. It came simply to me, this book, where I've written books. I've actually, every single book I've written since has been the hardest book I've written because I feel like nothing has a meaning like The Haunting of William Thorn does, and I'm really struggling to find that the reason of why, what are these books I'm writing for. But yeah, The Haunting of William Thorn has ruined me. But the spoiler was always in the title, guys. The
Oh shit,
Haunting.
yeah, it was.
True, 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 true.
It was in the title. Duh, Aaron.
I think people think that's like the haunting
Yeah,
of William
that
Thorne.
he's being haunted.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
wasn't even thinking.
he's the haunting is of William Thorne.
Oh, it was in the title.
It's like, I gotta cry again.
And I don't know if you've seen on the cover as well, but the portraits and how the roots of the tree which is underneath the manor house connects to the portraits, and which roots are actually connecting certain portraits and which roots aren't reaching certain other portraits.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
So
I
you've
gotta go
got
back and look at the cover art now, because
Yeah,
that.
you should. I kind of breathe audibly explain, but you have this manor house at the top with roots coming from underneath it, and there's two portraits. We have Robert and we have Teddy, and the roots are touching Robert's portrait because he owns the house. And then beneath Robert, we have William Thorne, but the roots don't ever reach down to William because he obviously has no connection,
right. Interesting.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
you've got, yeah, the roots not quite reaching Teddy, but the roots between Teddy and Edward connect perfectly. So it's all it's all a fun little thing.
That's so cute. Oh man, I gotta
Yeah.
go back and look. I gotta go back and look. Um,
That's a good Easter egg for
it is a good Easter egg.
everyone in the know.
I found it really interesting that Edward was presented as religious because to me, this would be a very unexpected character aspect for an LGBT character. And why did you make him religious?
For me, it was less of him being super religious and more of him being astute and interested enough to study religion at a level at what would be our universities or your guys' colleges. That was the degree he did. And I'm not necessarily religious. I'm not religious at all. But I do understand how people can take solace in religion. But
Mhm.
also, I think religion and horror obviously tie in beautifully. And I
Mhm.
really wanted there to be a perspective in the book that not necessarily is my own. That isn't he's religious in a way of let me help you understand how you're feeling. Let me take your hand and walk you through this grief, rather than other characters in the books who use their religion as a reason to be displeased with who their son is in love with.
Mhm.
And I think that again, two sides of the coin situation, perhaps. I actually went to a Catholic school when I was younger. I am Greek Orthodox, baptized or
Okay.
whatever the hell it was. But I'm not religious.
Right.
It was just, when you're a baby and you get dunked because your parents want you to be dunked. That was kind of my situation.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
but I did want to. I felt like I had enough info from people that I've worked with or seen that I wanted to incorporate. But I didn't want religion to just be this bad hammer of like the gays are bad. My son, you can't love this man. I also wanted it to be from the perspective of a gay man who was interested enough in religion to study it. Um, who had then tools from learning that to be like, listen, this is what's going on with your emotions, and these are tools that I have for you, um, that I think are useful. I don't necessarily think Edward is a religious person, though. I think he is almost parallel to religion. Like it's there
Mhm.
beside him and he can reach for it if he needs to. It's that comfort blanket if he needs it. Um, but yeah, it wasn't something I thought too much about because I actually do have a religious horror that I've got in my head that I want to do. I've
Ooh,
got two with religious horror aspects. One's like a proper religious horror, and the other just has, well, the thing is, evil was a construct made by religion. So like whenever you're
right,
doing something which is dealing with evil, you kind of have to add it in. Um, but
right,
yeah, I don't
right,
know. For
totally.
this book, I wanted it to be shown on two sides of the coin. I didn't want to just like bash it, and show it for hating on the gays, which is what it does do in a lot of
Right,
cases.
that
But there's a lot of
it's,
cases it doesn't.
yeah.
So yeah, I had to kind of, if I was gonna add it in, I didn't want to be too biased to my distaste for it. I needed to give it a little bit of room to breathe. If that does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It was almost like a
I like that.
reclaiming, by at
Yeah,
least one homosexual man of a religion that, he was taught does not accept him.
I
No, I like
agree. I agree. And I think it's like religion is such an odd one because I just have issues with it that I think a lot of it are probably from like hearing what other people go through, etc. I've not necessarily had personal religious bias put upon me in a negative way. Like nobody's turned around to me in my personal life and said, "We don't like you because you're gay." My grandparents didn't do it. The school I worked at didn't do it. The school I went to didn't do it. However, it happens a lot, and it's terrible. But I think you're right. It's
Mhm.
this feeling of reclaiming, of being like, okay, well, some people are religious, but not everyone has to be assholes, you know?
No, I like that.
I've got
Yeah.
loads of religious friends. I believe I don't ever talk to any of my friends about their religion, but I'm sure I have people that like, I have a lot of American friends, a lot of American colleagues and friends. And I'm sure I have people in there that are religious, but they love me, I think, and like me. So, I know not
Mhm.
everyone's bad with those
Mhm.
feelings. So it's
Yeah,
such a complicated one.
it's not all religious extremism over here, I do promise that. Even though
Yeah,
it probably
no, and I
There is a
know.
lot of it, though. I mean, let's not.
Yeah, there is. There
There's
is.
a lot of it.
Especially now. I think a lot more now because they're being given room to
Oh my
cultivate.
God. Just all
Uh,
this gas from
yeah.
that flame.
Yes.
uh, yeah.
Can we come stay with you for a while? No, I'm just kidding.
Come stay
We
there.
couldn't
Honestly,
even leave the country. They'd get
I
us at
don't
the
know
gate.
many religious people here. Like I really don't. I don't. I always have this conversation. I could be so completely wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of religious people, but it is. I don't think it's the same as in America, but I think it's because
Yes.
is it church and state are separate here when it comes to politics, or
What's that like?
What is
well,
that like?
it's kind of like not going that way. It's kind of like actually, it seems to be in rhetoric being joined back together again.
Yeah,
Um,
they're like, they claim that it's separate. No, it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
It may even be that it never was, and they just lied to you the whole
They just
time,
lied. No.
yeah,
which is what's happened here.
yeah,
They're like,
yeah,
no, we don't have it. And then it's like, in God we trust on the fucking dollar bill. Like,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so we have like a couple of questions, kind
yeah.
of specifically about kind of William being a ghost and how
we,
was he
we were
they
trying to hash it out.
so they kind of all combine together, but how was they all kind of boil down to one thing. How was William helping Edward? Like when Edward was beaten up, William was
Kind of carrying him a
helping
little bit.
him. He was able to kind of bury the bones as a ghost for Robert and Teddy. Um, so, how was he able to do that all as a ghost? Or were you kind of thinking, because he kind of had this task to do that as a ghost, he could complete that task?
I feel like it's many things. I'm just looking for the specific part in the book.
Let me
The
define it.
first page of the first chapter, it says, William Thorne didn't exactly believe in ghosts, but he liked the idea that the dead walked on. At least that's what gave him comfort. After all, what was a ghost except the love of a soul clinging on to what they didn't wish to leave behind?
That
Ah.
makes
In
sense.
my
That makes
head, I felt like it was a mixture of the fact that his body was still in the building, physically in the building,
Hmm.
in the basement. It was not
Hmm.
until his body was taken out of the house that he and realization of his situation sunk in, that he became a phantom, this unseen being that could tap on walls and scare a few people off, but he wasn't anything like too physical. Until that reminder, that love walked back into that door, sat down on the floor, and got out the Ouija board, that he was able to get that enough realization back in him that at the end, in my mind, they see each other.
Aww.
Like they see each other in in that moment. So it's it was we could go into the conversation of like what happens to the dead. Like in Greece, when somebody dies, they believe that there's a period of time that the soul walks on, and then you have multiple celebrations on different dates,
Oh,
and then
cool.
they actually then go to God or wherever the hell they believe in.
Mm.
Right. So I think it was just in my mind, it was a real mixture of the fact that his body was still there and he didn't know he was dead or he didn't want to clock on. Um, and
Um,
that's what kind of like made him physical. Also, Edward's belief that he was real. It's this love, this kind of this need to do a task.
hmm.
And it wasn't
Yeah.
until that task was taken away from him and he realized, oh shit, then that kind of all went, and then it came back a bit at the end.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
It's another one of those things of like leave it up to your own interpretation kind of thing. But I always do go back to that first paragraph, the first page, first paragraph of chapter one. That's the seeds I want to sow, and then the rest is up to you. If you want to believe that it's because he that's I don't know. You could believe that it was all in Edward's head. Maybe Edward thought he was being I don't know. It's up to your
I
interpretation, but
like
in my
that.
mind, it was more of a like a love thing, you know.
Oh,
I do like that.
that.
Yeah.
Like that.
It actually was inspired by a quote from WandaVision on the last episode of WandaVision where Vision and Wanda Maximoff are sat down and they're talking about what is grief except love persisting or something along those lines. I have the quote somewhere. I love it. I love it. And it was the first time I was like, oh yeah, grief is just love, kind of. It's like love that's the love that you can't use up. It's kind of like the love that
Mm.
stuck in you, kind of thing, and that kind of all worked back into it.
Yeah, like it's like left over from even when the person's not there, you still have the connection.
Yeah, yeah. It's this unspent feeling inside that you no longer can do anything with for that towards that person or that thing you've lost. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
that's like the end of your story with that person.
yeah.
Aw.
So Edward was a bit of an anchor for William.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I think without Edward going to that house,
Mm-hmm.
William probably he went to that house because he either wanted to move in, do it up and sell it, or die. He had three options. He's like, I'm either going to do this or I'm depressed enough that I'll like end myself in this house. And unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
he got what he wished for in the beginning, but
Mm-hmm.
because he had that anchor there, he it just it was different,
Mm-hmm. Because he'd fallen in love
and he'd fallen down the stairs too,
And fall down the
and
stairs.
stairs.
and cracked his head on the cement.
Oof. Well, we were wondering, like speaking of the end of that book, about why you chose as the author not to like add the extra scenes about Edward's like trials to get the house back and stuff. And I realized it was part of it was because it was all from, William's perspective. But
Yeah.
I wondered, if you had considered like taking William with Edward or like having him attached to him and go through some of this stuff. And just like what your thoughts were on like all the different outcomes of that ending.
I think it goes back to the point I made earlier about a good horror film almost feels unfinished. It leaves you with some unanswered questions. And the fate of some characters it adds into that. Originally, I was gonna have it that they were gonna open up when it was supposed to be Edward that dies, they were gonna open up well, okay, one sec, let me go back. When it was supposed to be when Edward was all along supposed to be Teddy
Hmm.
and William was supposed to live, and then William was supposed to figure out he's fallen in love with a ghost, they were going to open up a museum for queer love and all the lost stories and have people come to this museum in the manor house and then be a bit spooked and they'd like have a little laugh and scare a few people and whatever, and that was kind of be the happy ever after. But then it didn't feel right to me having Teddy fall in love with William when the whole story was Teddy being in love with Robert back in the day, and it being their love that persisted on, that it defied natural order and had these two men haunting this place to get back together. So it could have never been Teddy in the end. So when it was William, I felt like I'd done this massive twist and thing at the end. If I'd added on these extra scenes of finding out, or kind of like walking you through the story of how Edward gets the manor house in his possession and, what those trials and tribulations, it would almost, I think, take away from the shock factor a bit. It would give you too much time to like get back into the norm.
Hmm.
Sure. So like for the horror
Hmm.
aspect of the book, you were like,
Yeah.
nah, we don't need to add all that.
Yeah, I felt like it was William's story. I only had that one short bit in the book from the perspective of Edward when
Hmm.
he's going a bit crazy and he's scratching out the name he finds in the attic. And it's really, really short. If I'd had more, then maybe I would. But I wanted it to be clear that Edward went through it. It took a long time to get enough evidence and stuff together to prove that this village guy was fucking crazy. And then the house will naturally go to auction because there's nobody else to take it, and then he gets it back, and it's kind of like, yes, it took a long time, but he always was coming back. And I think William just needed that reminder that he wasn't alone in his ponderings and unfinished business feeling. So when Edward walked back through that front door, it was almost like he knew it was going to come one day. That's why he was waiting. And
Right.
why,
Because he
so
was like, eventually he'll come back.
yeah, I think in the back of like, why else was he waiting? You know, I
Right.
don't
Well,
think
what else would
it.
he wait
Yeah.
for?
Yeah, but there was this feeling of him like, even though he was like, I lost concept of time. No, you didn't, because you just said that there's days, weeks, months, years that have passed. So you're very conscious of time. Even it was almost like the difference between like the prose of the character being like, I don't know what's going on with time, da da da, and then the reality of, well, you do because you just brought it up, and it's like a
That's
bit of a
funny.
contrast kind of a thing, like a contradiction to himself, because it was, yeah. So I think even if he didn't realize it, he knew deep down that Edward was going to come back, and that's why he always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. He was practically waiting, waiting for that noise of a car or whatever.
I love that. It's like he was just waiting for him to come back.
I'm pretty sure Edward promises as well. Like, I
Hmm.
think they make a promise towards the end of the book of like they'll see each other or something.
Mm.
It's been a long bloody time since I wrote it.
That's
And I
true.
haven't managed to talk to anybody about the spoilers. I don't in usual podcasts and stuff. I can't say anything. So this is really fun to like be able
I
to.
know this is so much fun.
We're glad. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
So excited.
we're spoilers. We're just like, no, no, no. If you don't want to be spoiled, go read the
Go read the book, then come
Read it.
back.
Yes. Yeah.
join the fun part of talking about it.
Yeah.
I loved how you're kind of showing the isolation of each male, gay male character via trauma and secrets, of course, is kind of a huge theme in this book.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like this is a reflection of the harm that's being done to the queer community and how that trauma isolates us from each other and keeps us stuck?
I think it's a reminder of how much we need community because there
Mhm.
is community out there for us. I've spent my career writing books that are queer normative worlds where the struggle of my queer characters isn't their queerness.
Yeah.
There's not, there's not really labels in my books. They love who they love. They love the way they love, and no one it's never questioned. That's never a plot point in the book, right?
Mhm.
This is the first time I ever felt brave enough to look into uh the the difficulties of existing in a world where you know that there is going to be somebody that dislikes you just based on who you are, and that could be your mother or your father or some random stranger that's standing at a pulpit preaching, on a
Mhm.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a reminder for the main purpose I wrote this book was as a reminder to people that for those who've had an easier time like myself coming out to family and friends, it was because of my uncle's struggles, and I wanted to like write this as a love letter to him to be like thank you. Like I see what you had to go through, and it was shit and awful and horrible, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And because you went through that, just know that you eased the path for me, and I think that brings some comfort. I know it brings some comfort.
Good.
Um, so that was the reason I wrote this book. I think now more than ever, queer people need places to escape. Do I think this book's the right book for people that want to escape from what's going on right now in the world? No, because I think, again, get yourself a queer normative world. Like, go and escape, go ride dragons and be a mage or, have intimacy with a vampire lord. Go and do that. But yeah, this was my reminder book. This was my I thank you book to my uncle. So it was like more personal than a larger, broader picture. I don't think I'm comfortable enough yet to do that, The world is
Mhm.
such a scary place,
Right.
and especially for queer people, especially for trans people, people that like, have disabilities. There's a lot of people that are scared.
Hmm. I think
And
that's reflected.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like the
Yeah.
the sort of a fear of like just general things you don't need, like horrors you can't even conceive yet being plotted behind your back, and you're just
yeah,
like waiting for the shoe to drop.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that it's funny to me that a lot of people are saying in this book specifically, oh my God, the ghosts were scary. That was never supposed to be the scary part. The
Yeah,
horror
I was
in
gonna
this book
say,
was supposed to be the human experience of these two men in love in 1930s, which wasn't that long ago,
hmm.
and they weren't allowed to be in love. And we're talking about adults here. Like, William wasn't a kid, he was an adult.
And one of
The other
them was murdered.
Hmm.
one of them was murdered and the other killed himself. He was practically murdered by his family because he was locked in a room and
Right. From like
so
literally like neglect and abuse, essentially.
yeah, 100%. His death is on his blood's on their hands, 100%. So
Definitely.
yeah, that for me, the horror of this book is less the ghosts and less the sleepwalking and the digging of graves. It was
Yeah,
the human
no.
experience of like what people go through, went through, and will go through, you know, continuously until things change.
Right. The cycles have to stop for the sort of horrors to stop cycling.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure.
No, because you can see how, um, yeah, just living through our current times of, I feel like really since 2020. I mean, I feel like we're still living in a daze since the pandemic.
Yeah,
Um, we're still healing from that, and I think we'll be continuing to heal from that for years.
I agree.
But
Yeah, we're not going to
I,
be healing anytime soon.
but I feel like 2020 was like the start, and now it just snowballed a bunch of other things that just
Yeah,
broke off from that,
like
and
the
then
huge
here we are.
crises really started to hit.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's see. The next question we have is, I mean, you already kind of answered this, but it's about like spirit attachment. Oops, I
Yeah.
missed my.
like, do you believe that spirits attach to places or people? With all of your experience, you ghost hunt too.
Yeah.
Um, you know, do
It's
you feel, or do you feel like it kind of depends on spirit attachment?
I am so unsure. If you would have asked me this question 4 years ago, I would have had a different answer. Unfortunately, the events, the ghost huntings I've done, the more I go to, the more I become a skeptic, which I hate because I love the idea of things sticking around. I
I
think
get
I like
that
the
though.
idea of that. I like it for the entertainment factor.
Yes.
That I like it for the shows and stuff. But I do think that we are we are such intricate beings that I find it very difficult to wrap my head around that we suddenly die and all that energy, all of our personality, or you could call soul,
Hmm.
the thing inside of us that makes us just disappears or just stops existing. Like it's energy, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
you blow out a candle and there's smoke that that it I I just feel like it's energy. So this idea of like a place being haunted or a person, I think yes, if there is enough energy given by those willing enough around it. Because when you go on ghost hunts and you do a Ouija board, you spin the planchette around the board because you're giving spirit your energy
Right.
to latch onto. You don't just have your fingers hovering waiting. You're supposed to turn it around and really focus on this concept of like, you can use my energy, use me as a conduit and move the planchette.
Ah,
Uh, so I think if, if there's enough willing, believable energy to be offered by us in a place, then yeah, maybe, why not? Why not something happen? I mean, I've had things happen to me when I was a kid that the scenes in the book inspired, like the concept of me the sleepwalking. I've never sleepwalked ever. Yet in
right. Right.
grandparents' old house, I sleepwalked multiple times. One was trying to climb out a window to go on a roof. One, I followed an old man out of my bedroom. I remember following him out of the room,
That's so
looking
scary.
down the corridor at the portrait up on the wall, which was of this man, which was my granddad's dad. Uh,
Wow.
and then being like, oh, that's him, turning back around and following him into bed with my great grandma.
Holy crap!
And then she woke up screaming
Oh
because
my
I into bed with
God.
him. So
That
that
is
happened.
so wild.
Had the pressure on my legs. My mum has had exactly the same situations happen in that same room. But
Yeah, like
since
the
then,
coincidences are
yeah, I
hard
think
to explain.
it's a hard one. Like, do we believe? What's the harm? I mean, we all need something to believe in at this bloody point. Like, let's have a bit of fun.
Yeah,
So
no,
yes,
I'm there with you.
yeah.
No, that is so scary though. That is so
Yeah, Erin, you
scary.
can't see her over here, but she's like waving her hands around like,
It's weird. Like, I'm sure there's been other things. I used to be terrified of the dark. I slept with a light on until I got in a relationship with my now husband when I was like 19.
Yeah.
I was always really sensitive to the idea that something would happen or a ghost would come. I would envision myself before going to bed, like putting a bubble around me and
ah,
be like, please don't. Like, I would I would say like, please don't come in my room. And this was in
Mhm.
other houses, it didn't matter where I was. Like it's being the dark scared me. And it was because of that. But now that fear is probably gone. And I don't know if it's because going back to like the political stuff, that there's so much more scary stuff in the world right now.
Yeah.
Like that, like this idea of ghosts and stuff, like it's not enough. I've not got a strong enough feeling towards it that things happen. And the ghosts are probably chilling, hanging around, going, for God's sake, can you just give us some energy? Like just like
Like,
stop
yeah,
worrying about
honestly.
that. We want to like move so I'm sat next to a Ouija board right now. Like I have a Ouija board in my room
I do
and
too.
I would do it, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like at this point, it's like what could be scarier than what is going on now? It's like, yeah, whatever, come in.
Yeah, yeah, like come on, like
What
let's
are
have
a
some fun.
couple demons gonna do? Like honestly,
Yeah,
come on
yeah,
over.
it's funny, on the ghost hunts I go to, they always start the night off with a prayer and they end it with a prayer. And that, like, we find that so weird, me and my friends that go, because again, like, praying like that isn't something things people do around by me. Like, it's just not a thing. So when people do it, and I'm sure for you guys, it's probably quite normal over there. Here, it's like, what? Like, why are you praying? Like,
Like,
we
what
would
are
go,
you doing?
I mean,
yeah, it's like,
honestly, no, like not during our ghost hunts, nobody ever prays unless it's like
No.
unless they're like freaking out
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, I don't want a guy to get me
Yeah,
yet.
that's
Gotta pray."
yeah.
we
But you know,
we actually have a ghost hunting channel too. We're very
Oh my
multifaceted
God,
over
stop. I
here.
want to see it. I love
Oh, you
ghosts.
thank you so
Yes, of
much.
course I do. I
You'll
want to see.
laugh. It's so low budget,
do?
but
It's
we
No, but
do
that's good. That's good.
that
It's
makes it even
authentic.
better.
Yeah, it does. I'm sorry, but the ghost hunts I've been on, they're so commercialized now that like they stuff a group of 40 of us in a
no.
chapel
Oh God,
and
no.
people are farting and their bellies are rumbling and people are like, that was a ghost. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was
It was a
Sandra.
ghost, and you're
She had
like,
a
"Well, it smells
ghost.
like a ghost.
Yeah, it surely smells
Smells
like
like somebody died in here for sure."
I want to do one of the ghost hunts I do go on, but I want to do a private one with like a
Yeah.
very small group of people.
Literally,
Just
yeah.
come. Okay, if you ever come over here, or if we ever go to England,
Well, yeah, we'll
we're
hit you
meeting
up.
up.
We'll do a ghost hunt together.
I will 1000%. Where are you guys based? Where do you do your hunts?
We're in Indiana.
So yeah, we're
Isn't
in
that like
southern
one of the
Indiana, which is
most
in the
haunted
Midwest.
places?
So, well, let's see. So
Indiana.
far, we have done. So
Very
Izzy's
local
house.
to the area.
Yeah. So Izzy's house is actually haunted as crap. Um.
Oh yeah, we have not discussed the fact. So this is gonna be weird, but I live in the old county jail of our town.
Wow.
Um, it is a three-story limestone building full of jail cells, and then also a house part was built on like after.
Wow.
So my parents have renovated this whole thing. Well, my dad has, and my mom also has. Well, they all did. But anyway, that doesn't matter. What matters is there are lots of stories about this place, and people like there was a guy who was like lynched outside the jailhouse
God.
because he shot a train conductor because he didn't want to pay the fare and he was just a little bitch, but the train conductor was from like far away, and all his boys straight up hijacked a train, like 200 guys stole a train
My
and
God.
took it like 3 or 4 hours south back to this jail, made sure nobody could come out, and they like demanded, like all these guys showed up and like made this one guy come out. They were like, no, 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 he's not going to a bigger security prison. We're dealing with him and you cannot stop
Yeah.
us.
Like they legit, like straight up bypassed the guards. Pulled
Vigilante
this
justice of
guy.
hell.
Yeah, they
Wow.
pulled this guy out of the cell and they lynched him out in the front yard.
Oh my God. I want to do it. I
Yeah,
want to
like
go.
there's some like really messed up stuff that's
Yeah, that's
happened.
just one story. Like this whole building
Please
has had
send me
like
video.
I don't even know. They've had deaths and hangings and suicides and I mean anything you could possibly imagine has happened in that jail.
Wow.
Well, not
Please
anything. I don't
send
think.
me videos. I need to see your channel.
Yes.
Yes, but we definitely do like we're doing
Like,
pieces because
yeah.
it has a lot of rooms, but we will definitely show you what we got so far, which includes we filmed in the jail during 4th of July, and Aaron and I were in there trying to do like
We were trying to do like we were
just
just
some kind of
questions and putting things out there and like, oh, who are we talking
we were
to? And all that.
filming.
And people were setting up fireworks. And I got
God.
scared. And you can see that in the video where I get scared. You hear the fireworks
It
go off.
goes off, and Aaron just like jumps and is like running towards the door. But she doesn't go through the door. She stops because she sees I'm not following. And she's like, "What are you doing? We gotta go."
I can't wait to watch this.
Oh, it's such a shit show. It's so funny. Anyway, thank you so much for everything. I don't know.
Oh,
Let's see if
cool.
there's anything because
Okay,
we've
like
kind of gone over
we've pretty much gone over it. So I just had like, okay, I saw on your threads that you are going to be starting a gay The Conjuring vibe story. Did you start that?
I did, yeah, I did. So I've eternally on deadline, so it's paused, but
Oh,
that will be the next thing I write. So I just need to get like for the rest of this year, I'm focusing on just this fantasy book that I'm doing,
sure.
um, just to kind of get back into it because I found writing really hard this year. But yes, I've got a book. It's called The Exorcisms of Tate Ford. And it's essentially about this guy who can who is a clairvoyant, and he grew up in a religious household who thought it was like demonic. So they literally, as he grew up, he went through 8 exorcisms on
oh my
Oh,
himself,
God.
some homemade and some not. And it's about him writing a story of his life when the last priest that he had interactions with, the priest that kind of saved him, actually, that was like, you need to get out. This family is fucking crazy. Like, you're not possessed.
oh my God, yeah, yeah.
And this guy's like, listen, we've just had a case come to our table, and it's about a guy that was the same age of you when I saved you, and they're taking this seriously. They think he's possessed by a demon. I really need you to go in and help me prove that he's not, so he this young child doesn't go through what you went through.
Oh wow,
And
like we gotta save him from this like
he's gonna go and he's
happening.
gonna see if this stuff is real or not. And he gets tangled up with a very sexy priest, a young one, not a young
Oh, I
one,
love that.
younger one, not a white-haired priest.
I love that though. I cannot wait. I saw
That'll
that
be
on
fun.
your threads and I was like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really excited about that one.
Cannot wait. And I guess, do you have any pets? We're the Cats and
I
Books
do.
podcast, so.
I do, yeah. I have a dog called Winston. He is a yellow/white lab. He's like mostly yellow,
Oh,
white. And he's 6 years old, turned 6 in September, and he farts and
the
he
fartiest dog.
like sleeps, and he has this new habit of like yapping and yelping at like 5:30 every morning. But he's like completely fine.
Oh,
Just wants company. But yeah, we do. We love him dearly. Good old Winston
he's like,
boy.
wake up, I'm so lonely.
Yeah, I know. Like, hurry up! It's more like, give me food. I'm
Oh,
hungry. The
That
second you
sounds like
feed, quiet again.
that's hilarious though. I love that.
that's exciting. We'll have to see pictures of him.
I know. Send us pictures.
Absolutely. Send me your links to your ghost hunting, and I'll send you photos back of Winston.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much for great questions.
Yeah.
It's
I think,
great.
well, since it's 4, should we just go ahead and wrap it up?
I think we asked everything we wanted to, but
Thanks
we
for answering all
definitely
of our nosy questions.
Oh,
This
I
has been
love
so
it.
fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been really, really good, like therapeutic to like talk about it. Talk about the stuff I can't usually talk about.
Right. Like, yeah, not being able to spoil your own book would be so, like, I'm so bad at keeping a secret. I'd just be like, come on.
But the lucky
Hurry
thing
up.
for me is I forget it. So that's the only upside. I couldn't even remember some of the characters' names.
Look, it happens. I can only imagine how many characters you've written like in
Like,
your lifetime. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
remember how
kind
many
of
mine
scary.
is.
It is
You're
scary.
like all these guys I made. Oh no.
you need a family tree like on
I
your
do.
wall.
I do. That'll be my next project. Thank you
Well,
guys both so much.
no
Yes,
problem.
thank you. We'll let you get on with your day, but we will put all the links
Mhm.
Yes.
to where you can find Ben Alderson and his books in the show notes, and you should go check out all the rest of the things that Ben has written.
And we'll
Please.
definitely be adding those to they're definitely
Yeah,
already added to our list.
I
I'm
That
appreciate it.
hopeful we'll get to some more of your work soon.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a really fantastic rest of your day.
You
you too.
too.
Thank
Bye
you so
bye.
much.
Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Anytime. Bye.
Bye.